Wonderful is the name of Kieron James's business, and what he's about to share with us is actually wonderful. Plenty of wonderful things he's talked me through about what's driven his success. And one is your business must be easy to find, easy to sign up, and most importantly, easy to use. More on that in just a second. Kieron, welcome to the session. How are you?
Very well, thank you. My pleasure to be here.
My pleasure to have you here. Let's go straight into it, sir. Would you like to maybe start off by telling us a bit more about what your business does and the kind of service you provide?
Of course, yes, yeah. We're a contender or competition for credit and debit card payments. Really harnessing new technology. We've all been using credit cards and debit cards for the last 60 years because they've not really been a viable alternative. We
Mm,
now have one because of some new technology called open banking. We want to maximize the services open banking provides by offering a super aggressively priced alternative to credit and debit card payments.
and how long has the business been running for?
Well, we started life, funnily enough, as an online charity giving platform nearly 10 years ago.
Mm,
And that was a 100% philanthropic project set up when I was running a telecoms business at the time. My daughter and I co-founded that. Frustrated really by the amount of money that was being lost from donations along the way through partly through card processing, also through online giving platforms, their fees for providing the service, deductions from
mhm,
gift aid. We're a bit frustrated with all of that. So we set up a completely free alternative at wonderful.org. And then we became a victim of our own success because the cost of processing the cards and all of those donations made by cards became quite prohibitive. It put a very low ceiling on our impact and reach, and all the money we were getting from our corporate sponsor was just going basically to pay the card processing fees.
mm,
So, 2020, I think, was pretty much when we started to look at open banking. I think we paused, from memory, we paused the platform briefly at the start of COVID. Then we set about replacing Stripe, who was the card processing provider on that platform, with a third-party open banking provider. And then I think there was that penny drop moment when you think, actually, this is such a fantastic solution. Why don't we look at a commercial business? So I
amazing.
mentioned at the time we were operating a telecoms business at that time. It wasn't too
Mm,
long after that we sold that telecoms business and then moved all of the stuff over to a brand new payments business.
amazing. Sounds good. So quite a journey that led to the production of this business, and often journeys do lead to wonderful things. Now, you shared something really, really powerful, and plenty of listeners here today are looking for powerful information to help them continue growing and scaling their business. And you summarize in three key phases: easy to find, easy to sign up, and easy to use. If it's okay, let's spend a couple of minutes delving into each of those three punchy steps. Easy to find. If there were businesses listening to this, in which they are, what advice or guidance would you share with the SME community on becoming easy to find?
It's an interesting question, and it's kind of a difficult one to answer because things have changed so much over the last couple of decades from when I first started doing this. So my first business was actually in web design back in 1998, when
Mm,
search engine optimization, I don't think, was even an acronym. So we were all busy trying to be found online, but it was definitely a lot easier. People's dwell times on websites was much longer than it is now. This
right.
predates social media and certainly things like TikTok. And so we've all got much shorter attention spans. I think that's a given. So, it's not just simply a case of SEO anymore. That in itself is much more complicated. I think Google's algorithms are quite rightly more difficult to understand and work towards, because I think what Google's trying to do is give the user the best experience. So now it's a combination of, making sure any strategies that you're using across all those social channels and your website really gel together very neatly and very well. So the experience of someone looking at your Twitter or X posts, as they are now, or your Facebook posts, whatever, when they click through from there, their experience is not in any way different from what they expect it to be from clicking that link. So that's all about consistency in tone, in voice, in
Mhm.
colors, in branding, and all of those things. Um, and it's a work in progress. You're constantly looking at that. Don't think you can do that and leave it for the next 6 months and it'll be great. You're constantly feeding those social channels and making sure that your content's rich and relevant.
Amazing. So the consistency is so important and easy to find. If your website is purple, but your branding on your social media is orange, it's not going to be so, hold on, either the same company or different. It's got to be like a seamless, I'm going through one journey with one company kind of thing.
And completely. And I think, you will take that to various levels of specificity almost. So if you're doing a particular campaign, then the
Mm,
message in the social campaign needs to reflect the landing page. So don't just drive people to your homepage. If you've got
mm.
something very specific that you're selling, then you need to be driving them to a landing page. So when they hit that page, they're seeing the same thing being reinforced. All sounds very obvious, but it's also very easy to miss. Similarly, things like you'll update some of the messaging on your website and maybe update the two principal channels that you think are the principal ones, and then forget three others that you've put some content together for a while ago, not updated the company bio and things. So just keep looking at that and refreshing it all the time, making sure it all stays consistent.
Yeah, like you said, it's so obvious. However, with business owners with millions of things juggling, or they're juggling, they can easily forget. Hold on, what's the customer thinking right now as they walk through the door on the on online, walk through the online door? Is it all seeming like one stop? Easy to sign up, very important. Talk to us a bit about that. What do you mean by easy to sign up? And how could business owners maybe adapt that to their world?
This is really, really critical. Again, I talk about attention spans now. We're
Mm,
just at the process of launching some commercial services now with the payment side. We're literally about to start the SEO stuff that I mentioned a moment ago in anger. We're probably at the seventh iteration of our sign up flow, which has gone through so many changes because with all the usability testing in the world, you still want to get that out in the real world and get real users signing up to find out what's happening. So there's kind of always, for me, an important soft launch around what you're doing, whether that's if you're a retail business, that might be a geographical soft launch in a
mm,
particular area. Similarly, if you're online, you may take a particular geography to start promoting and look at what's happening, get that genuine user feedback, and then just keep iterating. Again, there is no finish line with things like registration flows because you'll always get feedback. But I think certainly before you start any major promotional activity, you want to be going through that a good number of times to make sure that feedback and the expectation from your users matches what your expectation is of your users. Now, there are clearly lots of businesses out there that can help you with that kind of usability testing, and I would recommend looking at those. And again, they come in various shapes and sizes of people in a room, a dozen people in a room being recorded and having interviews and clicking around your website through to doing that remotely. But I think there's huge value in that usability testing.
um, so when it comes to easy to sign up, how could business owners make it easy to sign up using different channels? For example, the face-to-face way of selling, or when they walk through your actual store or online. I mean, there's heavy emphasis on what you said about online, but what about easy to sign up when it's face-to-face type of selling or in a store?
And again, I think this is where the iteration becomes super important. If you're doing face to face in a store, then your sign up might not be the same. I'm thinking a retail environment, which isn't my specialist area. I've definitely been
Mm,
zeros and ones over the years. But in a retail
okay.
environment, it might be about ensuring that you're giving the customer the right kind of attention, not too much attention, but just enough
Yeah.
attention, and then making sure the payment process when they've selected the product they're selecting in store is straightforward and easy as well. And again, that might vary depending on the technologies you're using and the payment costs that you've got associated with processing payments. So looking at
Makes
things
sense.
like open banking technology, for example, you wouldn't right now want to use that in a coffee shop where you've got a queue and lots of people going through because they will
Mm,
want to use contactless payment. So again, it's just thinking about the right method for the right
right
environment.
method. Yeah. And nowadays, QR codes, I mean, it's made it so simple for people to jump people from being in a kind of a manual state to a bit more of an online state. Scan the
Completely.
QR code and make a payment. I went to a an exhibition not so long ago, and there were books being sold, and literally you could scan the QR. You could There was a big queue, huge queue. There was book signing by a celebrity, and you can literally scan the QR code, make a payment, um, and because we all had name tags, they could see who's made the payment. Oh, Amit's made a payment. Let's go and give him a book. So I was
Yep,
like, oh wow, I just made the payment, didn't have to do anything. I get the book, and off I go. So
exactly.
QR codes has
Exactly.
been so
And
simple.
funnily enough, we were chatting about exactly that scenario for the open banking type payment. Now, for us, our sweet spot in terms of integration, because it actually makes that process much easier, is in an e-commerce environment for open
Mm,
banking type payments. You're not entering 16-digit card numbers, CVVs, postcodes, first line of address, card holder name. All of those details just disappear. It's a very, very simple process. But in that kind of retail brick and mortar space, that's a really great example of how the QR codes can be deployed. You can imagine even that somewhere like a food truck, if you're selling 3 or 4 items, have the items up there with a Q card, and as you say, scan the QR code, show you paid
Yeah,
when you get there, and walk away with your burrito.
never too late for a burrito. Um,
Absolutely.
easy to use. Sounds obvious, easy to use, but from your perspective, when it comes to businesses of your nature, what does easy to use mean, and what does it look like?
Again, really, really interesting question. And with us, because it's payments, there is something which we would describe as positive friction. You
Mm,
almost want to have enough friction in there for people to feel that, whoever's handling their money is doing so with your confidence. So things like the consents, which are obligatory in open banking for you as a consumer to provide consent for us to process the payment, is important. But having said that, you want to make that process through checkout to be as straightforward as possible. I'll go back to what I was saying about the sign up. The same principles applies. It applies. Sorry, it's iterate, iterate, iterate. Just keep looking at how you refine that. If you think about the three combinations that we might have, which are, what device are you using, what browser are you using, and what bank are you paying with, then the permutations of those three things become nigh on infinite. If you're using Starling Bank on an Android with Chrome, as opposed to using Barclays Bank on an iPhone with Safari. So we've got to do a lot of testing to go through all those different permutations and make sure that flow remains as smooth as possible. Thankfully, we're working with standards which make that a degree easier, not 100%. But you're just trying to get people, again, let's take that QR code example. If you were starting an online purchase on a laptop or a desktop machine, then the simplest way to get you to approve that payment is in your
mm,
mobile banking
yeah,
app. And we'd use a QR code in that environment just to say, scan this and then complete the purchase by making a tap and saying, oh, authorize this purchase in my mobile bank.
amazing. Now you just going to change slant to the next topic, which is about growing and scaling. You started, scaled, and sold multiple businesses. Along the way, they say if you want to go fast, do it yourself. If you want to go far, do it with a team. Along the way, I'm pretty sure you probably had team members you've lent on, relied on, worked with. I mean, what would you say, from your opinion, the top three things you should look out for when it comes to hiring great team members?
I think it's always know where your own limitations are and your own
Mm,
skills lie. Again, it sounds very obvious, but it took me many, many years until someone said 6 words to me that really changed things, because we all suffer from that imposter syndrome, particularly as founders of businesses, and that feeling that you've got to do everything and you've got to know everything. And it's kind of dumb in a way, because clearly you can't do and know everything. Everyone's stronger in some areas than others. And those 6 words were, that's what you pay me for. And when someone said that to me, it suddenly resonated. And I went, you're right. I don't need to know the answer to that particular question, even though in the moment I was thinking, okay, I'm panicking now. I should know the answer to this. So I think that's
funny you
really
mentioned that because
important.
that's what Henry Ford said. I think when he was questioned at some point in court about here is all your financial statements and talk me through these, and he goes, "Are you silly? That's what I have my finance team for. I don't know all this kind of stuff."
Exactly. It's exactly that. I didn't know that story, but that's pretty much exactly what happened to me. I think it was a question on a balance sheet or something like that. And I went, just pause for a moment. And
Yeah.
finance manager just said, that's what you pay me for. So great.
Absolutely, because so many
Um,
business owners are being held back because they're trying to do everything and be everything and learn everything. Hold on, you're the entrepreneur. Your job is to grow and scale it, not necessarily do certain areas which you're not maybe passionate about or not skilled enough to develop really quickly. And it could be the accounting side or the HR side or something. Outsource it.
com-
Um,
completely.
this comes to time, but I want to ask you one quick question before we leave, or maybe two. First one is I've got a couple of words over here on my sheet. I want to read those words or phrases out to you. What I'd like you to do is tell me the first thing that instinctively comes to your mind, almost like a quick fire round, a big catching you by surprise, but we love the responses people give. First word is education. What comes to your mind?
Not always necessary.
Amazing. Second word, innovation.
Critical.
Critical. Fourth word, rubber ducks.
Wow. Pass.
Pass. And finally, finally, team members.
Sorry, what was that?
Team members.
Team members, passion.
Love it. Awesome. Final question. You go into the next 12 months of your business. Now, of course, there are going to be challenges. There are external challenges like the state economy and maybe political climate, all that kind of stuff. But we can't do anything about that. So we park those external things aside. However, looking internally in your business, what would you say is the number one challenge you feel you've got to overcome to continue growing in the direction you want to grow, or probably even bigger as well? What would be the number one challenge
Pretty
you think?
easy one actually. For a lot of small businesses, it tends to be around that agility side. So you're very, very agile, but that agility can actually be a bit of a headache too, because it means you are stopping and starting projects. So it's really balancing agility with having a reasonably long roadmap of product development. Otherwise, you just keep constantly changing, which is obviously not a benefit of being in a large organization where that agility isn't there and there's all sorts of meetings to be held before you can change direction. So it can be a bit of a thorn in the side, the agility.
Being agile, but also sticking to the long-term plan. And sometimes the short-term kind of battles make you come off the long-term plan and getting
Yeah.
back on it again as
Or
well.
short-term opportunities. You just see another thing, another shiny thing that you can point the development team in the direction of.
Shiny objects, you can't live with them, you can't live without them. But Kieron, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing some brilliant wisdom here today. And I hope our paths cross again in the future. Lovely
Thank
speaking
you.
to you, Kieron.
Thanks.